The unofficial title to my talk is Effective Approaches to Kiruv. Kiruv is the word for religious outreach to other Jews. So I'm going to do 3 very quick sections: background, main thing, and a conclusion. My background is I'm a Russian immigrant, and my mom didn't even tell me I was Jewish until 6 months before we left. That's how rough things were in Russia. So I was 10 years old when I found out. So thanks, Mom. I survived 7 years of religious school, including Hillel Academy, which is Orthodox boys and girls separate, and Ramah, which is today Denver Jewish Day School. I was pretty heavily mistreated by other Orthodox kids in middle school, so I came out of that experience with an absolute belief in Hashem and a very deep distrust of religious people and rabbis, and that took many years to undo. I was also one of the first 4 students back in the day to help start Chabad area campus, and my rabbi is actually in the audience. Thank you for coming, sir, or as I call you, Jedi Master. So I kind of feel like my dad showed up to my baseball game.
Go Gershon.
And and I've known him for a very long time, and I've sang his kids to sleep. I've helped teach him how to read and do math. So I'm very, very happy to have such a good relationship with my rabbi. A little vocab notes. Kiruv is the word that Livich Jews use for bringing people to Judaism. It comes from the word Karev, which means to come close. And Mitsoyim is the Chabad word. It means campaigns. That's the one that I secretly think of in my head. But Kiruv is just better known. So let's be really clear. Orthodox Jews are not perfect. Yes, they're human like us. If they were perfect, they would not need forgiveness on Yom Kippur. And they are simply more exposed to knowledge earlier on in life. They have more character-building opportunities. They need God's help and compassion just like the rest of us. The Torah and the Hebrew Bible, otherwise known as the Tanakh, is very much chock full of examples of even righteous people doing lots of sins or errors. My favorite example is Hannah, the mother of Shmuel Hanavi, Samuel the prophet. And when she went to the tabernacle, the Mishkan, before there was a temple in Jerusalem, she was standing there and she was humbly begging for God to help her conceive a child, and she was standing and swaying and whispering, which is where we get the Amida from today. And when she was doing that, the head priest, Eli the Kohen Gadol, comes in and he finds her doing this, and he's puzzled, and he accuses her of actually being drunk. Good move. The Meforshim, or the commentaries, tell us that God influenced Eli the Kohen Gadol to act with such arrogance so that he would be forced, as such a lofty person, to give her a blessing as a way of making up for it. So that's how the whole story of Samuel to King Saul to King David begins. So indeed, to say the other Orthodox, the goal of being a religious Jew is to make the world a better and holier place, and not just by learning Torah, but also by spreading kindness and helping others. Our sages say that the uniqueness of the revelation of the Torah at Mount Sinai is that for the very first time, the spiritual could now affect the physical. One great example of Kiruv, of bringing people closer to God, is Abraham and Sarah, the first Jews, and how they had a tent in the desert open on all 4 sides, 4 doors, to bring in guests from all over the desert and feed them and take care of them. So let's take it to the present day. When I was a college student and I went back to my road to observance after being gone for a long time, I did it because my grandma passed away, and I was the only one in the family that knew how to say Kaddish. Within about a year, I became heavily involved in my Judaism again. And when I started going to an undisclosed Orthodox shul, I started getting lots of snide comments from people that also went there about my colorful clothing. And since most of them dress black and white. So not only is that grossly arrogant, it ignores which parts of our religion, our faith, are halacha or law, and which ones are minhag or tradition. And that's really not effective ways of doing kiruv. It's really not effective of bringing people to your page. There are also sources in halacha and religious law that very clearly say you don't rebuke other people unless you're sure it will have a positive effect. There's also a source in Talmud, I need a citation for this exactly, that says that to embarrass a person is akin to murder, since in both cases you're causing their face to turn red. There's also a wonderful concept in Chabad Hasidus that the soul of every Jew is a Halek Elokai B'mal Mamish, and separate part of God in itself. That means that an FFB from birth person is as close to God as anyone that just found out he was Jewish or she was Jewish or anybody else. On that level, we are all equal. So as such, I would highly encourage people that want to practice their Judaism to reach out to others, to practice what in secular terms would be called, in mindfulness practice would be called a attitude of non-judgment. And that's very crucial because that'll help you build a bridge between other Jews and yourself, regardless of background. To paraphrase something I've heard of Rabbi Meyer from Aish say, Aish Hebrew Orthodox Synagogue, him quoting something his father said once. He said, "My father told me that at the end of the day, regardless of how you dress and what you do, there are only two kinds of Jews. Those that have Yiras Hashemayim, fear of heaven, and those that do not." In a similar fashion, many of the great rabbis in history, including the Rav Rebbe, including Hafiz Chaim, would go out of their way to judge other Jews favorably, to reframe their behavior in a positive light, and to avoid lashon hara, gossip. That's why many Orthodox Jews focus on the not yet approach. This person is not yet keeping Shabbos, this person is not yet keeping kosher, but at the same time, they are Jews just like us. So as a conclusion, if I said that the behavior of a religious person usually leaves a much deeper impression than their ideology, no one would be surprised. Encouraging your fellow Jews to be more religious through being kind to your guests, going out of your way to help others, are far more effective methods than criticizing people that are not on your level. And that's exactly what Chabad does. That's exactly what the Jewish experience does. That's exactly what a lot of people try to do with DOT. That's why our community is growing. Because people know this, and they try to practice it, and I'm simply trying to shed more light on this. And to borrow from one last story, there's a story that you had a father who told his sons as he was dying to gather a whole bunch of reeds, a bundle of them. And he said that by itself, any one reed can be easily broken. But when they are together, that bundle of reeds is much, much harder to break. So let us endeavor to get along with our fellow Jews whenever possible. Like Achdus, unity. So strength, blessing, love through unity. Am Yisrael. And thank you, the DEN.